be distracted figuring out what's going on with my fucking laptop because I hate using my phone. But
hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. It is episode 172. I'm your host, Nate Maxon, along with my brother, Aaron.
hello, everyone.
And Mr. Main Event, Mark Brew.
Yo, 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 yo.
Archie, there's espionage at his office. The FBI raided his Mar-a-Lago or something, so he's not here with us.
Yeah, Donald Trump showed up and took some fucking documentations.
Everyone says Archie's not a good guy. Everyone's saying it. Everyone. But this week, we are going to continue and end our journey through the Pro Wrestling Illustrated 500, the inaugural one. We're going to try to do 50 names in 90 minutes or a little bit more. It's like I was telling the guys before, some of these people we're not going to have to spend a bunch of time on, just because how often do we talk about Hulk Hogan on other shows and stuff? You know, it's not like we have to spend 10 minutes talking about Bret Hart, because we talk about Bret Hart every single week. So, but we will break it down here for you and get down to it. Number 50 in the 1991 PWI 500 is, we kind of spoiled it last week, Earthquake.
Archie Mitchell.
6'4", 462, 3 years pro, huge feared WWF rule breaker, has injured Hulk Hogan and killed Damien with his Earthquake splash. A former sumo wrestler in Japan, 3 years pro. Managed by Jimmy Hart. You know what always baffled me about him? I didn't know how young he was. Like, yeah. He was only like 42 when he died. He looked like he was in his 50s in 1989.
I guess it was because he had, the whole horseshoe thing going on up top almost, and it was balding.
Yeah, but it blew my mind one day. I don't know why, but I went down a Wikipedia rabbit hole, and when I was looking at his profile and I looked, when did he die, and then it said 42, and I was like, son of a bitch, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I always enjoyed the Natural Disasters with him and Typhoon. That was one of my favorite tag teams as a kid.
Aaron, any thoughts on Tenta?
I like Earthquake. I didn't like Babyface Earthquake, but just in general, I mean, I enjoyed the guy.
And the snake thing, the Jake the Snake thing's funny if you watch like a clip of it. Because they show the clip, there's a clip of it online, and it's like, I think it's from like an event center or something, and they show Earthquake do the splash on Damien, and then they flash to Mean Gene's face, and he does like the like, oh my god.
Or Vince when he's like, these are snake burgers, and he like smacks them out of his hand. He's disgusted, but he's like wearing like that windbreaker. It's ridiculous.
Number 49 is Conan, 5'10", 230, 4 years pro, on his way to becoming a legend in Mexico. Recently competed in WCW and WWF. High-flying athletic style has caused many fans to name him the Mil Mascaras of the 90s. He really did become a cultural icon in Mexico.
Yeah. I enjoyed him most with the NWO Wolfpack.
Yeah, I was never a huge fan. I thought I liked him as a promo.
That's what I was gonna say. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, in the ring, to me, I don't know, nothing ever stood out, but I really did like him as a promo.
What was it?
That's what I was gonna say.
Arriba.
Yeah, he was the personality aspect of it I enjoyed, but like in ring, it didn't really do it for me. And he's one of those guys that I think, because I've read of like interviews with him and shit like that, and he was one of those guys that wasn't a fan of the business. Like the business found him, kind of like Luger.
Yeah.
So he didn't really have the. Like they always say, like if you're a second generation guy or you liked it as a kid, you're gonna be better at it, He said he said one of the biggest problems that he had in WWE was he got there, and like I said, he's admitted that he wasn't like a fan of the business, so he didn't know people and stuff. And his Max Moon outfit was like gigantic, and he had to like lug it around and everything like that. And guess who he asked to help carry his bags into the building because he didn't know who this man was.
Was it Pat Patterson?
No, it was worse. It was Arnold Skolin.
Briscoe?
Arnold Skolin?
No, he asked Arnold Skolin to help him carry his bags. And Arnold Skolin just being a nice guy, I was like, all right, but then like these guys are sitting in the locker room and fucking Skolin is carrying his bags, and he's like right then and there. I was like, ugh. He didn't know he had heat walking in, but he had heat.
And I did like,
you know who the fuck that is?
Right. I did always, it did pop me when he was doing the throw the shoe thing too. That was funny.
Yeah, that was fun.
Number 48 is Tom Zenk. 6'1", 237, 7 years pro. Z-Man is back in WCW following a bicep tear. Former PNW titleist and U.S. Tag Team Champion with Brian Pillman. Drop kick from the top turnbuckle is stunning. Great athlete, Tom Zenk.
Yeah.
Why did I say that like an old guy? Great athlete, Tom Zenk.
Tom Zenk, like great athlete, good build, good looking guy. I think he would have been more suited to be like a heel with a mouthpiece.
Mm-hmm. He would have been He would have been a good Al Perez. Like we talked about Al Perez, how even when they put him with a mouthpiece, he still stunk up the joint. But I mean, he had a good look, but he stunk. Tom Zenk had a good look and he could go. He just wasn't a great promo, and he was miscast as a babyface.
Yeah,
and apparently an asshole. But
he left us 5 years ago?
Yeah, it's been. Yeah. I was gonna say I thought it was like 2017, 2018.
Says
I'm gonna try to jump to my computer here.
Okay.
Atherosclerosis and cardiomegaly.
Oof. I don't know what that is, but it sounds awful.
Yeah.
I think it's
cardiomegaly has something to do with your heart, I'm sure.
And it could have been. I mean, a lot of the guys from that era had that enlarged heart problem, because of the steroids and stuff. So you never know. Number 47 is Dino Bravo.
Man.
6'1", 256 at this point, 19 years pro, earned reputation as strongman, held the WWF tag titles with Dominic DeNucci in 1978 and Canadian International title in 1986, returned to the WWF as a fan favorite. At this point, he's pretty much, I think at this point he's not on TV. They're really only using him when they're up in Montreal.
Yeah, we're just using him as like, you guys can hear me, right? I did switch over. Yeah, they were using him as like to draw houses up there, and I'm sure he's probably helping promote it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's showing a lot more for 90 than it is 91. But like, as far as like, I thought him and Earthquake was a good fit because like, it really got him over as that heel.
Yeah, him and Jimmy and Earthquake were cool together. Like I liked when he'd be like jumping up and down, and like Dino would like run around him,
with his cape. Yeah. Excuse me. Number 46, Davey Boy Smith, 5'9", 245, 14 years pro. British Bulldog is enjoying solo success. Teamed with Dynamite Kid to win the WWF World Tag Titles in 1986, Power Slam has spelled many recent victories. Davey Boy, this is at this point, he got the cornrows, and he's he has some really good matches in the early 90s, some good rivalries. And I know the last show we talked about how it was a Warlord mark for big muscle man matches. Davey Boy and Warlord had good matches. You know, I mean, he was doing good work at this time. Probably, I'd say from 91 to 96, Davey was one of the 20 finest wrestlers in the world.
Yeah. At this point, he was a little like it hurt him a little bit because he was a little too big. You know.
Yeah, he had
he put too much weight on his frame.
I call it Batista syndrome.
Yeah, not too much weight. You know what I mean? Too much muscle on his frame.
Yeah,
but like the in between, like I said, like when he was like at his jack to his gills, it was like I shouldn't say his work suffered a little bit, but like when he was with Dynamite, and then after he came back in like I don't know 94 and got down to like what he looked like in like 95 through like 98, like that's peak Dynamite in my opinion.
It's actually surprising, like you said, Aaron, as tight and as cut as he was, that he wasn't injured more often.
Well, I used to love that. Like with him, my favorite thing he do was that military press slam. God, he execute that so well.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a move, but that shit where he would just basically front or back flip. You know what I mean? Where he's almost like flipping off of his neck. It's like, this is insane.
Right. I've heard his daughter speak on him, and I'm glad that they finally put him into the Hall of Fame. He definitely deserved that.
It was long overdue. Long overdue. Number 45, Cactus Jack. Hells yeah. 6'4", 247, 8 years pro, totally unpredictable. Flying elbow smash from the apron to the floor has to be seen to be believed. Feuding with Eddie Gilbert and Sunny Beach. At this time, he's kind of doing East Coast indies. He's not, I don't think at this time he's with WCW. No, he was on, during this period of time, he was on a Rezzy's show a lot.
Yeah, this is him getting into UWF.
Yeah. Yeah.
It says 91. He's in WCW.
Yeah, he does. He's like, it's weird because
starts in August of 91.
Yeah, with this covering 90, he's kind of like in between, you know, kind of like I said, doing East Coast indies, and he did the run in the UWF deal, and but he is by far probably when he's not before he signs with WCW, he's probably one of the, if not the top talent in the world unsigned by a major promotion.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, like, remember how, like, you know how, like, you hear about guys that like leave the WWE now, and then after they leave and they go off and do their shit, they're more desirable. They become more desirable to the companies after they leave them, you know, kind of like Drew McIntyre. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what Mick did here. Like, he left WCW because he didn't like what they were doing with him, and he went out there and showed the other promotions that didn't have, like the major promotions that didn't have faith in him, of look what I can do, you know. And then it was like, oh wow, we need to get that guy back, because Jesus Christ.
Yeah, if any of you out there have never seen the indie matches that Cactus and Eddie Gilbert did, go back and watch. That's some good shit, pal.
My biggest thing is I got like a ton of respect for him, because he done all that hardcore stuff, and you know, a lot of those guys fall into that circle of they need something to help them with that pain. And Cactus wasn't never one of those guys that, you know, he refused to go down that road.
Yeah, he never fell in the bottle. You know, he never fell in any of the bottles, you know. I mean,
booze, pills, none of it.
Yeah. Granted, now he, you know, now he can he can't walk very well, and you know, he's in pain all the time, and etc. But God bless him, he kept it natural at least.
What's he say? Like what's he say? He's like, God bless him with this flat ass.
Flat ass, yes.
This perfect pumping body, this flat ass. I can do this shit. Like, every flat back bump, there's nothing I can do about it.
Number 44 is Brian Pillman, 6'2", 226, 4 years pro, Flying Brian was recently forced out of WCW. Fine aerial ability, including a flying clothesline after spring from the top rope. Hopes to be back soon. But this is when he did the Yellow Dog shit, right?
This is Yellow Dog.
Pillman always great. I mean, he's the guy you talk about, and I know it. Probably the saddest passing in wrestling is Owen. Obviously, we're all
Right.
and when anybody passes, it's sad. But I'm just saying for us as fans. But Pillman's is he passed too early to really live up to his potential, because we've talked about before what an integral part he could have been of the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
He's gone too soon.
But talking about his not wanting to like harp on negative things, but like talking about this, he was a guy that was kind of the opposite of what I was saying about Conan, was that he didn't want to be a wrestler. You know what I mean? Like he wanted to play pro ball, but obviously that wasn't in the works for him because he was smaller and kept getting hurt and all that shit, So he wound up getting in wrestling, and he hadn't really been a wrestling fan, but he is kind of, and Nate or Mark, you can tell me if I'm out of left field on this, but he is that era's version of Kurt Angle, in my opinion, of this guy that wasn't a fan, didn't want really anything to do with it, but got into it out of necessity. And when he got into it, fucking absorbed the business like a sponge and was just like immediately good because he was just a fucking insane athlete.
And a great athlete with good work ethic. That's what it takes.
Like when I think he got in 88, maybe
89.
89.
Actually, no, I think he got it. I think he started in 87.
Okay, so I'm just saying this is exact 87. Okay, and by 1990, Ric Flair is saying, "I want to work with that guy." That's fucking nuts. That the greatest wrestler on the planet at that time is like, I want to work with that guy.
Right.
I just
think right here is showing earliest it goes back is 89 on Pillman.
Okay.
But I know it was before 89 because he was up there teaming with Bruce.
Yeah, he was in Stampede before, and he came to WCW in 89.
Yeah. So this is pre-Blondes and all that, right?
Oh yeah.
So
this is
like a year and a half down the road, probably from 91.
Along those same lines that Aaron was talking about, like that generation's Kurt Angle, like he didn't want to be a wrestler. I just recently saw like a shoot interview from prior to Kurt Angle ever coming into WWE, and they were like, "Would you ever sign with WWE?" And he was like, "Hell no, I don't care how much they offer me." and then it turned around, and a few years later, he's there.
Lo and behold,
you know what the funniest part though about that is, with him saying, "Hell no, I don't care how much they'd offer me." When he won the gold medal in the Olympics in like 96, they offered him a huge contract, and he turned him down because he wanted to go into like broadcasting, like sportscasting or whatever, and he sucked at it. Like he's told the story, he's like, he sucked at it. He was like, I was horrible on camera, like trying to do all the shit. So then I was like, oh, I'll try the WWF thing again. So he went back to him and was like, can we still get that? Is that offer still on the table? And they were like, no, it isn't.
Not for that price. But
yeah, that was 2 years ago. So then he wound up making like $400 a week working in Memphis.
Number 43, Eddie Gilbert, 5'10", 222, 14 years pro. Hot Stuff has used some of the vilest tactics ever seen, but is currently a fan favorite. Recently departed the USWA, hurls fire, but knows the ring well.
Every time I hear that damn name, Donna Summers comes on in my
head. He's one of my favorites. Nate knows that. Like, I'm not telling any stories out of school saying that fucking Eddie's one of my favorites. Great mind for the wrestling business. He's a guy that in a lot of ways can say, like, we say all the time, oh, he was his own worst enemy, didn't get out of his own way. He would do that a lot in his career. And I don't know if it's true, but I know Missy Hyatt has said that right around the time before he passed away, Vince was considering bringing him in to book, basically, like to help book.
Yes, and that is true. It was either Jerry Jarrett or Jim Ross. One of the two corroborated that story. So yes, it is true. He was. They were considering bringing him in to be a part of, because at that time they kind of had a committee going, and they were considering bringing him in as part of the committee. Vince didn't want to use him as a talent on camera, but he was willing to use him as creative. Yes.
And wasn't like 90 when he done that tag team and stuff with Tommy Rich and all?
I believe so. It's around that time.
Right. I enjoyed that. And I mean, Gilbert, he just had that charisma.
But I just, like I said, I think the guy was a hell of a talent. I'm not saying he was like the greatest in-ring worker, but he was a good in-ring worker. But personality-wise, mind for the business, he's almost like a Scott Levy. You know what I mean? Kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none, if that makes sense.
I agree with that.
Like, I've never watched a Scott Levy like that was the greatest thing I've ever seen, a 5-star classic because of the work, but it was a 5-star classic because of the psychology of it, and that's kind of how Eddie was.
He really knew how to draw heat too.
Yeah.
Number 42 is Mr. Saito, 5'11", 247, 26 years pro. Grizzled Japanese veteran, remains one of the top stars in the Orient. Beat Larry Zbyszko for the AWA title in 1990. Master of hundreds of debilitating holds.
And just Nate, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, other than the stuff that I've watched from like late 70s, early 80s, him teaming with Mr. Fuji in the WWF, I haven't seen a lot of Saito, so I really don't, I mean, it is what it is. He was over as a heel during his time.
And visually wise, looking at him as a guy, and it's probably true in real life, not just visually wise, but looking at him, you're just like, if I saw that guy walking down the street or in a bar, I'd be like, that's not a guy to fuck with.
Right.
To me, he looks like the Japanese version of Alpha.
Yeah, he was a big, thick motherfucker.
That probably, like, I think he's one of those guys that said that they, in the business, they would say he's not going to go anywhere that he doesn't want to. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to throw Mr. Saito wherever he doesn't want to, like a Haku or a Scott Norton or, you know what I mean? That type of thing. And just everything I've ever read about the guy or learned about the guy, he was a guy that in Japan, like that, the Japanese locker rooms are like, he's the fucking man. Don't fuck with him. Do what he says. Kind of like their Haku, Right.
I really want to go back and look at some of this 90s stuff that he done, because like he was working like the Steiners, Nick Botwinkle. He was tag teaming with Muda, tag teaming with Ricky Chosu.
He's 26. He's 26 years in. He's like, I'm still in my prime, baby.
Right. And like,
it makes you wonder too. Would Mr. Fuji have done the shit, like the ribs and shit that he did if you didn't know Saito was with him?
Right. Number 41 is Rick Martel, 6 foot, 236, 19 years pro. Former AWA champion, is among the sport's most gifted pure athletes. Also an excellent tag wrestler. Became the model in 1989. Set to travel to Japan.
Never bad.
Never bad.
As a kid, he worked me. I hated his freaking guts. You were supposed to, and he worked me. And now that I'm older, I really, really appreciate what he brought to the table. Because
and you know what he did too? Really good. Okay, so Martel, and if you've ever seen any shoot interviews with him, you'll know what I'm saying. Martel is one of those guys who, no matter how long he was in the States, he could not he could not mask his accent. So what he did great was promo wise, he made it short and sweet, but good. Hey, get my good side. No. This is my good side. Like he made it sound bites,
Yeah.
And that was very smart on his part.
And there's people that I've read like comments and stuff where they shit on that gimmick, and I'm like, that's a great fucking gimmick.
Oh, it was fantastic, and I'm sure if you asked him, hey Rick, if you're going to a convention next week and they want you to come out to the ring and do a little thing in the ring, what are you going to come out as? I'm going to come out as the model.
Are you going to come in your little blue and red pant or your
right, your little Tony Gurria outfit
with your little butthead gimmick? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, he's gonna bring arrogance.
Yeah, but Martel, like I said, was never bad. Even like that little run that he had in WCW that got cut short because he hurt himself or whatever. Like that was it would look like it was like when that happened, I was like, oh man, this is almost like kind of going to be like a resurgence for Rick. And then he got hurt and then was probably just like, fuck it. I'm too old for this shit. I'll just go home. But, like I said, I've never seen Rick Martel have a match that sucked. I mean, there's not a lot of guys you can say that about.
Right.
And it was fun too that small time that he was with Slick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was always funny watching him and Slick dance together for some reason.
Yeah.
It made me laugh.
Rick Martel coming out to Jive Soul Bro. That's funny.
Yeah, it's great.
And I never knew what the hell that was that he, now I know what it was, but like back when I was younger, I was like, what is that damn thing he's spraying that stuff?
The atomizer? Yeah.
Yeah. It was unique. And now when I see something like that, that's immediately where my head goes.
But yeah, the gimmick was ridiculous enough to be awesome. Like, not if you don't know, after I've told you I'm a model, I'm going to wear a gigantic button.
It says, yes, I am a model.
I am a model.
What was up with the beret, though?
That was awesome.
Number 40 is Kerry Von Erich, 6'2", 260, 13 years pro. The Texas Tornado is a former IC champ, captured too many titles in world class to list here. Brother of Kevin Von Erich, master of the claw hold. He is going really off the rails at this point. He had the title run in 90, and then through 91 and 92, he's still in the WWF, but not heavily featured just because, again, it's kind of going off the rails. He's kind of a train wreck.
They're getting arrested.
Yeah.
Well, like we talked about multiple times, that's my first wrestling memory. So to me, that comes as like, to me, that's what a wrestler should look like as far as, physique.
Well, and for those listeners that maybe don't know, haven't watched a lot of it, because I know I have. You have certain wrestlers in certain territories. Like it was Tommy Rich in Georgia, or it was JYD in New Orleans, in Louisiana, or what have you. Man, it was Kerry Von Erich in fucking Texas. There was never a wrestler more over in Texas than Kerry Von Erich.
Indeed.
Number 39, Erwin R. Shyster, 6'2", 245, 10 years pro, formerly known as Mike Rotunda, Captain Mike, and Michael Wall Street. Actually a gifted natural wrestler, a former amateur champ at Syracuse. Mike Rotunda, boring and sweaty.
This is a pre-varsity club and all that?
Post.
He's at this point, he's just come into the WWF. As IRS.
Like that varsity club stuff, I enjoyed.
I'm never going to shit on Mike Rotunda as a wrestler. The guy, bell to bell, obviously a great amateur, a great wrestler. The IRS gimmick, actually, to me, was the best thing that ever happened to him, because it gave him a bone to chew on, as far as promos and stuff go. But I was never a huge fan. He just never excited me. I don't know. I just couldn't get into him.
I agree with the
Like,
I agree with the IRS thing. The only times that I really enjoyed Mike Rotunda was when he was IRS, and then I did honestly. It was because he was part of a package deal. I enjoyed when he was with Rick and Kevin, and that was cool because they sold it as like Kevin Sullivan took this varsity athlete and like turned him crazy. You know what I mean? So I mean that was cool, but anything else like down in Florida and doing it is boring.
I thought it was a weird combination of them putting him with the $1 million man. Like he's gonna make sure he does his taxes.
Right.
Like I got all this money, I can't figure out a way to launder it. IRS is gonna handle that for me. Archie Mitchell.
Number 38 is a guy that I'm a big fan of. Larry Zbyszko. 5'11", 248, 19 years pro, former AWA champion, calls himself a living legend, feuded with Bruno Sammartino in a legendary feud, now teams with Arn Anderson as the Enforcers in WCW. I love Larry Zbyszko. I think Larry Zbyszko is a great wrestler. I think Larry Zbyszko is a great promo. He was a great commentator. Just Larry all around is a great performer. I really like him.
Yeah, like him and Heenan together in WCW as commentary. Oh my god, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, one of the, I don't mean to cut you off, Aaron. But Mark, and I know Aaron knows this. I don't know if you know this, Mark, though. You know what one of my favorite things in the history of TNA is?
What's that?
The little mini rivalry between Larry Zbyszko and Raven. They had like great moments on TV together. Just two guys that are big personalities working off of each other, and it was so good.
Yeah, and you get intrigued by that because they're like polar opposites.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, it was really
like
Larry was the what did they call it in TNA? The director of authority or whatever. And then Raven's like
DOA or
Raven's like bucking up to him and stuff, and they're cutting. Oh god, it was so good.
And Zbyszko's a guy that I can admit that part of me didn't appreciate it when I was younger, but the older I got and the more I realized what wrestling's supposed to be or whatever, it's like, yeah, this dude's awesome. And
the game of human chess.
Yeah. He's also got one of my favorite Arn Anderson things ever. Arn called him the cigar store Indian. And the reason Arn called him the cigar store Indian was because when they were a tag team, Arn was like, I'm in here bumping my ass off, doing all this work, and you're just standing in the corner like a cigar store Indian, not doing nothing.
That's great.
good shit, pal.
Number 37 is Shawn Michaels, 6 foot 220, 8 years pro. Among the elite high flyers, he and Marty Jannetty are the Rockers. Duo captured the AWA tag title twice, now one of the finest WWF tag tandems. Goddamn, they were a good tag team.
I really enjoyed a lot of their 6-man work, though, like, because they put, like, Boss Man with them and stuff like that during this era. Mm-hmm. And it was great to me. Like, they clicked with anybody as long as they were face,
Yeah.
And we already evaluated Marty, didn't we?
Yes.
It's kind of weird they were that far apart, but Shawn, especially, was hurt for a little bit, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah. He
had his motorcycle accident or whatever.
Yeah, he was out for a bit in late 90. But yeah, I mean, and again, we're talking about Shawn in this era. Again, in other shows, we talk about him in 97, we talk about him in 95, whatever. But in this era, him and Marty are hands down one of the top 5 tag teams in the world. They're not having a bad match with anybody. They're bringing it every night. And, yeah, I mean, just so fucking good, so crisp.
Yeah.
And
Like
go ahead, Mark.
their execution was flawless. Like they were, to me, like that era's Rock and Roll Express.
Mm-hmm.
And they were. I know this isn't this era, but there's like some shit in Memphis where they were like bad guys, you know, and they were actually kind of like a cool little heel tag team too. And they never really got that, and obviously got that in the WWF. But at this point, I mean, I'd only say probably the only people that could probably touch him would be Brett and Neidhart. And are they even still teaming at this point? Or is Brett that weird shit where they got hot and cold with Brett?
Yeah, they I think at this time, and I guess we'll find out when we get to Brett in the countdown. But I think at this is
they'd give him little things like work with Ted and do this and that. But
they would split them up and put them back together at this time. They never officially broke up. But you'd have like 3 months where they're wrestling singles, and then because it suits what they want to do booking wise, they just put them back together again.
But I'd say the Hearts were probably the only team that could touch them
at
this time.
I hated in '90 how they had the team with the Rockers and Snuka and Jake Roberts lose to Hercules, to Power and Glory, Rick the Model, and the Warlord. I was like, so they should have went over, damn it.
Number 36, Sergeant Slaughter. 6'3", 310, 14 years pro. Former Marine drill instructor, has disgusted fans, but has also made a great comeback. Won the WWF World title from the Ultimate Warrior in early '91. Aging but cunning. At this time, of course, you got the Iraqi sympathizer gimmick. There's people that hate it. There's people that like it. I don't know. Sometimes I'm on the fence on it. At the time, when I was 12 years old, he was a dastardly heel and Hulk Hogan was the babyface, and I was watching it, Yeah. But now you look back on it now, and it's like, was it exploitive? Wrestling's always exploitive, though, that's one thing where sometimes somebody will say, oh, they're exploiting this, or they're exploiting the war, or they're exploiting. But when hasn't wrestling exploited the war?
Yeah,
when hasn't wrestling had foreign heels?
He Pearl Harbored him. It was a fucking bird, like that they just
right.
And am I saying that was like great to say? No, but it's always been a thing, and there's always sneaky Japanese wrestlers, fucking box-headed German wrestlers. I'm not saying box-headed, you know what I mean, like the haircut, or that's always been a thing.
The evil Russian,
the evil Russian. The only reason I think people got heat with it is because when they did the sneaky Japanese and the dirty and like the mean,
the war was over.
The war was over, and they were trading on old feelings,
old stanky
heat. Whereas it was going on. That's the only thing, and I'm not even saying I agree with it or disagree with it. I'm just saying that's the only defense I can hear somebody say. Like, that's why I didn't agree with it, was because it was going on at the time, and kids were coming back, at men and women were coming back in boxes. I mean, that's the only reason that I can say that. And but to me, it was what it was. Was it the greatest idea in the world? No. But was it the worst thing? No. It just kind of was what it was. Part of me wishes it would have been Chic Tugboat, though.
I really liked the SummerSlam '91 with Hogan and Warrior versus Mustafa Adnan and Slaughter as referee.
That was the match made in hell. Number 30,
nuptials. That's my
favorite part. Napalm and nuptials. Number 35 is Abdullah the Butcher. Thanks, Larry. 6'1", 360, 33 years pro. Long regarded as the most bloodthirsty man in the sport. former WWC Caribbean champion and brass knuckles title holder, managed by at least a dozen men.
In 90, he was doing All Japan and NWA a lot.
He's waddling around the All Japan and NWA.
Yeah. Just sucking.
So here's my thing about Abby.
Sorry.
I'll be quick. I'll be quick about Abby. All right.
Because Abby wasn't quick.
Not at all. But my thing about Abdullah is I get it. I get it because of the era of wrestling that he started. I mean, the motherfucker started in the 60s. And in the era of wrestling that he started, through the time that he was in wrestling, he was like Andre. He was like Andre. He was a traveling attraction.
Yeah.
You know, people it's a morbid curiosity to come see this savage man.
Madman from the Sudan.
And again, like I said, I'm not a fan. I'm not going to sit down and watch an Abdullah the Butcher match marathon, but I get it, you know.
Well, he was born in January 11th, 1941. And the son of a bitch is still alive.
Yeah.
But
good.
He's probably got hepatitis. He's probably got hepatitis A through Z.
The shit with him and Tommy Rich, though, like, if you've ever seen any of that shit, like, that was on the level of, like, Dusty Flair shit in the South.
The thing I'll say about Abby is Abby was an attraction. He wasn't a guy that you were going to bring in and build your entire company around. He was the guy that the manager was like, I'm having the problem with the main baby face, you know, and all my other charges haven't been able to do it. So tonight or whatever in this arena, I'm bringing in Abdullah the Butcher. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I'm this Sunday night in Atlanta, I'm bringing in an assassin.
Yeah, the Butcher, and like Manny Fernandez. I listened to Manny Fernandez's interview, Brian Solomon's interview with him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he said that like Abby was bumping around doing the suplex and this, that, and he's like, you've been holding back. You've known how to do this the whole time, you know. And part of me agrees with Abdullah's thought process on that. It's like, do you want to see Abdullah the Butcher have like a 3-star match?
No.
You want to see him fucking suplexing and jumping off the ropes and doing all that, or you want to see him with the fork and the fire and it's like it's the mystique thing of it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Taker too. Taker, like later in his career, you know, about 97, he started having like really good matches and shit. But before that, did you ever see an Undertaker match where you were like, holy shit, that was amazing?
Right.
No,
it was only the old school.
He knew what people wanted to see him do. Like they didn't want to see Undertaker doing planches and shit at that time. They wanted him to be stoic and do this, that, and the other thing. Abby understood his fucking gimmick and made a lot of money out of it. And God bless him.
I would have loved to see fucking Davey Boy military press slam Abdullah. That would have been some shit there.
Oof.
It's also my Abby is fond with me because it's the first time when we started reliving the extreme, it's the first time I really made Chad pop. Do you remember that, Nate?
Not off the top, no.
Well, I remember it. It was when we were talking about Abby when he was in ECW and how he had his steakhouse. And you said, I don't know if he closed it or sold it. And I was like, Abby never sold nothing in his life. And Chad,
it was a barbecue joint, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the Atlanta area, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Number 34, Antonio Inoki, 6'4", 240, 31 years pro, arguably the greatest competitor ever to come out of Japan. Currently a member of the Japanese House of Counselors, wrestled Muhammad Ali in 1976. I don't want to spend a lot of time on Inoki.
I don't either because I don't like him.
But he was a big star.
Yeah, he was.
I never really saw anything that he did that I was like, that was great.
I mean, Jesus Christ, look how freaking big he was.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. That's why he was such a big star in Japan. Japanese men don't look like that, and that's not a knock. That's not, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. You know, the average Japanese guy. I mean, we're the average white guy in America. The average Japanese guy doesn't have a fucking jaw like that, and he isn't fucking 6'4". And so, but I see why he was a big star. But we don't need to talk about him a lot because we're not Japanese. And
no, it's just I'll say this: his win-loss record, what they have on here, is pretty impressive. It's 295 wins, 46 draws, and 65 losses. So he definitely won 5 times of what he lost.
He was the Booker brother.
It definitely goes to show you that if you're the Booker, you can be impressive.
I misspoke and said he wasn't Japanese. That was a misspoke from me, by the way. Sorry. I don't know why, but I was like thinking of Ricky Dozan. He was Korean.
No. Yeah.
But he was born in Yokohama. Inoki was.
Number 33, Big Van Vader. 6'5", 375, 6 years pro. Colorado native, is a huge star in Japan. Surprising aerial skills. Defeated Otto Wands for the Catch Wrestling Association title in 96. What a mask. So if we're talking about 1990, this is
NWA,
WCW. He's, and that's not even a big deal yet. He's just kind of special appearances and stuff, but
yeah,
this is a career about to fucking happen.
And I don't want to say shit on the guy. We didn't talk about him very much, but in Japan, fucking Inoki made him.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? Have him go out there and beat him in like 5 minutes or something like that?
Yep.
And the fucking Japanese crowd almost rioted, which never fucking happens.
Like, to me, that's the most prominent early super heavyweight besides like Haystacks Calhoun or somebody like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And Mark, I think Aaron might know this, so I'm going to see if you know just a bit of trivia. Do you know, and Aaron, don't say it if you know it.
I won't.
Mark, do you know who they originally in Japan wanted to be Vader, that gimmick?
Don't Google it.
No idea.
Jim Hellwig, the Ultimate Warrior. That
really?
Gimmick, yes, they actually created that gimmick with him in mind. Right?
That would not fit whatsoever. But it's crazy because, like, it says cause of death for him is pneumonia. Like, you got this big bad motherfucker and he gets taken out by pneumonia.
Yeah.
Vader was the first guy, and I don't want to say this because, like, I know everybody talks about Bammer, but Vader was bigger than Bammer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was like the guy that you saw that was like, this dude should not be able to do this shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this is fucking
moonsault from the top rope, and you're like over 400 pounds.
Just all of it, and I wish to this day that he, like Brett talks about him on the Wrestling with Shadows thing. He's like, oh, there's Vader. He looks like a badass, but he's a teddy bear. You know what I mean? And doesn't want to upset people or anything. I wish in like 95, 96, Vader would have wanted to piss people off. Like I wish Vader would have had Shawn Michaels' attitude. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I wish he would have fucked Hulk Hogan up once.
Yeah. Just, like
then it would be Hogan with the lazy eye, not Shawn.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, or when Shawn fucked with him in the when Shawn kicked him at SummerSlam and was like, "Get up, you fat fuck." I wish he would have got up and did exactly what he could have done to Shawn.
Right.
Oh yeah, he could have hurt the shit out of Shawn.
Oh yeah, there's no way Shawn would have been able to fucking handle it. But since he was just such a fucking, I'm here to make money and support my family, I don't want to upset the apple cart type thing. It's like, I don't know if if that makes sense, but
apple cart.
I wish he would have had the attitude of his frame, if that makes sense.
Number 32 is Eric Embry, 5'10", 225, 10 years pro. Southern Champ has changed completely. Won the 1989 Inspirational Wrestler Award for saving the USWA from Tojo Yamamoto. Now he's managed by Tojo. Fine technician. For a regional guy, I liked Embry.
I like Eric Embry too, but he's a little high on this list.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll say, like I said, I dug Embry. He was I don't know, he was just one of those guys that I remember as a kid, when watching whatever USWA or GWF or whatever promotion on ESPN that they would happen to be running at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. He was there, and he was always entertaining.
I don't think he would have ever done I think he was a homesteader. I really think he just liked to be in Texas. He was a homesteader. He lived in the goddamn sportatorium.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, lived in it. I said he's not alive. He's still alive, but I don't think he would have ever been anything in the WWF. But I just always thought it was kind of weird that he never made it. Like, he never got signed by WCW. You know what I mean?
WCCW, world class.
Yeah, I know, but it's like I think he would have worked in WCW as a mid card talent or whatever. But
yeah,
but all they got here for him in '91 is Star Wars '91 and the Louisville show that they did in August. He defeated Lord Humongous, and then at Star Wars he defeated unknown participants in the Battle Royal, and then defeated the Dirty White Boy for the USWA Southern Heavyweight title.
And for those of you that have never experienced Eric Embry, the best way I can describe Eric Embry to you is he is the quintessential crybaby heel. That's the.
He looks like David Gold with a blonde wig
on. Number 31, Steve Austin, 6'2", 241, 2 years pro. 1990 PWI Rookie of the Year keeps getting better. Just you wait. The current WCW TV champion, feud with Chris Adams was among 90's hottest feud, managed by Lady Blossom.
Who was this?
He said that Adams actually wanted to do that feud with him and put him over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Adams trained him.
That's his trainer. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the guy that was in that group of people that were training, and they were like, "This is this guy." Like, Jared even talked about it. Like everybody was looking at fucking Steve because it's like, this guy, he's got long blonde hair, he's built, he's fucking big, he can move. Like puppy with big paws is what they were looking at,
Yeah,
and he can talk. Like, even then he could talk. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was a different Steve Austin, but he could still fucking talk. And
you know what? And I know at this point, current WCW champion, he's in WCW, or current WCW TV champion, he's in WCW by this point. But you know what's weird? Of early Steve Austin, and yes, the Chad Austin, the
original Stone Cold,
the Chris Adams feud was great and stuff, but I don't know why. But do you know what my most distinct memory of him in Texas is?
What's that?
A throwaway squash match against Frogman LeBlanc.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that's
doesn't he fuck him up? Doesn't he fuck him up to the floor?
He does.
Really hard.
But yeah, it's just like Steve Austin versus Frogman LeBlanc is this match that's just stuck in my head my whole life. And it's just, I don't know. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is this one of my wrestling memories?
I think it's Matt's dad. Wasn't that Matt's dad?
Matt LeBlanc. Moving on, number 30. Another great wrestler. Man we lost last year, Bobby Eaton. 6 foot 233, 15 years pro. Former Midnight Express mainstay is now a single star. Recently held the WCW TV title. With Stan Lane, held the NWA World and US Tag titles concurrently. What can we say that we haven't already said about the wonderfulness that is Bobby Eaton.
They called him Beautiful Bobby Eaton, and that son of a bitch was ugly as hell. That's what I can say.
God bless him. That's what you do, man. Fucking hop on that horse and ride that motherfucker.
It's like when you have an ugly kid and people say God bless them.
Or yeah.
Bobby Eaton is a guy that and I know we're not talking about like careers a lot on this, but just obviously through listening to like people talk about him and shit like that, he's one of those guys, like one of those like top 20 guys that was just universally loved. And I've never heard anybody say Bobby Eaton was a motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like nobody's ever said anything bad about him. Like when Stan and Jim were gonna leave and they were walking out and Bobby's like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "We're leaving." And he's like, "All right." And they're like, "No, you gotta stay, Bob. You got a special needs kid. Like you gotta stay. Like get that money." You know what I mean? He didn't even know what they were pissed about. He was just like, "All right."
Yeah. I'm going with you guys.
You know, all right. And there was this thing where like people were like somebody was interviewing him and he was just driving in a car and they were interviewing him and it was, I think he said it was like in like 92, 93 maybe. They offered him a contract, like his contract renewal was coming up and they sent him his contract and he forgot to sign it. And I can't I'm not going to go money wise on what it was, but like he had put the contract aside and forgot to sign it. And they thought he wasn't wanting to sign because he was trying to hold out for more money. And that isn't even what he was doing. He was just like, he just forgot about it. He put it off to the side and forgot to send it back. So then they were like, "We really want you to sign." And they offered him even more money than was on it. And he was like, "All right."
Well, Houdini said freaks come out at night. Evidently, it was midnight for him.
What was that?
I said Houdini did the song, the freaks come out at night. Evidently, it was midnight for the Express.
But Bobby Eaton, like I said, he can't cut a promo to save his soul. But in ring, he was just the best. One of
he
the
would have
best.
been a better rockabilly than Billy Gunn, though.
And what did Cornette say about him? Like he was one of those guys that just knew how to do it.
Yeah. He was a sound worker for sure.
Yeah, he just knew how to do it. He couldn't teach somebody how to do it. They're like, why'd you do that?
All jokes aside, like in ring work, grade A. One of the most beautiful mullets you've ever seen. That might be where they got the beautiful from, was because of his mullet. It was luxurious.
And I really think that him and Regal is discounted as a group, like as a tag team. They're really fucking good together.
Yeah.
Like I like the fact that Regal would like abuse Jeeves or whatever, but Bobby'd be nice to him. like
how we were raised in the South. Let me show you this.
It was good. It was good shit.
Number 29 is Ron Simmons, 6'2", 260, 5 years pro. Former Florida State football star, is now a WCW favorite. Held the WCW tag titles with Butcher Eat His Doom. Now has altered his attitude. Incredibly powerful.
This is prior to his heavyweight championship run, right?
Yes, this is prior to that. He doesn't win the heavyweight title until 92.
Right. I knew it was somewhere within those years, the beginning of the 90s. But to me, Simmons is somebody who doesn't get talked about enough. Like, They talk about him being the first black champion, and for that cultural aspect of that. But like as far as the in ring work, Simmons was solid.
And Doom is one of my favorite tag teams of all time.
Right.
And Ron, I don't want to say that he was like one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, but what Ron did great was Ron was an impactful wrestler.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the transition stuff or whatever might not be the greatest thing, but when that guy hit somebody with a slam or a spine buster or like those type of moves, like you watch this guy do it, it's like I fucking believe that. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, this
he had like a great power slam and shit like that.
Yeah.
Not to mention the Dominator years later.
Number 28 is Jeff Jarrett. 5'10", 200 pounds, 6 years pro. Son of former wrestler Jerry Jarrett, has already surpassed his father's accomplishments. Holds the USWA tag titles with Robert Fuller, one of the dying breed of classic wrestlers.
Longevity. I'll say that about Jarrett. Longevity. He has had longevity in the business. Despite the fact that he's been in positions of power, I really enjoyed a lot of his stuff. Not saying he's my favorite wrestler of all time, but as far as the wrestling aspect goes, he's there.
He obviously knows what he's doing.
And kind of like what I was saying about Eddie with being like the mind for the business or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What Jarrett has, like when I say like with Eddie, when I was talking like mind for the wrestling business, Jeff Jarrett has a mind for the business.
The business end of the business.
Yeah, the
Right.
beat. Out of all the wrestlers, he's like the guy that gets the business of the business.
Him and Triple H.
Yep. There's a reason that guy's in charge of basically everything you see in front of everybody. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Jarrett's
don't
still on the creative team for WWE, is he not?
He's in charge of live events for WWE. He's an executive now.
Right. So, like, he definitely gets it as far as that aspect goes. Like you were saying, he gets the business end of it.
All right, number 27. One of the great bell-to-bell pro wrestlers of all time, Jushin Liger. U.S. fans are craving to see this Japanese miracle man, former IWGP Junior Heavyweight champ. Aerial maneuvers, especially leaps out of the ring, are awe-inspiring.
He was Japan's lucha style, in my opinion, and the fact that they put so many belts on him at one time, he was kind of like you know how they did Ultimo Dragon with all the belts. They did that with Liger too, and like he's legendary.
It was fucking stupid how talented Jushin Liger is. Right? That's like that dude. It's like, how do I say it? Like that dude was super talented. He's a guy that I can say I've never seen have a bad match. And like one of the best things that ever happened to him was
what's that?
His outfit. And the reason his outfit was like the reason I'm going to say this is because he never got old.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because like guys can always be talented, like Terry Funk. You know what I mean? Terry Funk was always talented, but he had to change his gimmick because he was getting older. So he had to become middle-aged and crazy. And then the desperado and this, that, and everything. But since Liger was like covered head to toe, you didn't see him getting older. Does that make sense? So that gimmick was always shit, like you didn't see his body, so you didn't see him getting just naturally older. So that's just why I think like his gimmick and his character was timeless and never felt out of place because he always just looked the same.
And in the ring, he was superb.
Oh yeah.
But here's something else I didn't know, that he had 6 other ring names other than Jushin Liger. One was Cat's Thunder Tama. CTU
Japan, man.
CTU Ranger Yellow. I'm assuming that was something to do like knockoff of the Power Rangers.
Don't try to figure it.
Harariki Katana number 2. Kichi Yamada, Kishin Liger, and Mass CPU G, whatever that is.
Number 26. As we get higher on this list, like I said, it's going to be guys we've talked about extensively, but we can talk a tad bit about their greatness. Number 26 is Rick Rude. Ravishing One is missed from the majors, currently on the independent scene, former WCW Tag Champion with Manny Fernandez, and Intercontinental Champion, Great Neck Breaker.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
True meaning of a heel.
He's one of my favorites of all time, and he's one of the rare guys that, in my opinion, once he left the WWF, had a better career.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but my favorite Rick Rude is when he, like a lot of things that gets overlooked is the fact that he was basically like a manager for the early DX.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because his shoot name was Richard Irwin Rood, ROOD. So he put another letter on his last name and put the shorthand version of his first name to create his gimmick name.
That shit worked.
It did. And when he called you a sweat hog, you wanted to slap the piss out of him.
But yeah, like I was saying though, he's about to go into, in my opinion, the best run of his career is that late 91 up until Hogan shows up in WCW. Rick Rude.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking great. Like he just in WCW, he's fucking great. And I don't even think it's like, you know, like you talk about like big fish, small pond or whatever. I don't think it was that. I just think he was finally able to. He was still able to do the ravishing Rick Rude gimmick, but it wasn't so gimmicked.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
Like he went from being like, I'm the sexiest man alive to being, I'm a badass.
Mm-hmm.
And I can fuck you up. And like, I think he looked better when he wasn't as ripped as he was in like WWE. I just like, that's some of my favorite shit is Rick Rude. Like when he was with the Medusa and Heyman and all that shit. Like that's my favorite fucking Rick Rude. And I just fucking love that shit.
Number 25, one of the best big men of all time, the Big Boss Man. Began career as a bodyguard for Jim Cornette in 1985, captured the UWF title from One Man Gang in 1987, adopted a corrections officer image after entering the WWF in 1988. Heel, babyface, doesn't matter. Boss Man was one of the greats.
Yes, he was. And what was it when we were talking about Piper? I was talking about like they brought Piper in and had him work with Flair
Mm-hmm.
to make Flair. How are we talking about that?
It was just Flair coming into the WWF and trying to make him comfortable.
Yeah, they did that with Dusty.
Yep, he worked with Bubba first.
Yep, like get this guy comfortable because this for one is Ray Traylor going to give him a bad match? No, but two, it's like he's going to be comfortable with him, and like you said, heel, it worked. Babyface, it worked. what was it? Raven talked about like the top 10 greatest gimmicks of all time, and the fucking Big Boss Man's on that list.
As long as it wasn't the Big Bubba. I did not enjoy that. I'm sorry.
The first incarnation of Big Bubba was good. Like the NWA Big Bubba.
Right, but not so much the WCW version.
Yeah. But
lived and died in Georgia. He was born in Marietta and died in Dallas, Georgia. Yeah, so if you ever take a trip down to Cobb County, Georgia, I'm sure they got something with Ray Traylor anywhere.
But yeah, Ray Traylor, hell of a worker, great big man, and just like everything I've ever read, all around good guy. Everybody loved him.
Funny story, like when I was younger, and I used to read like the National Enquirer stuff when it had anything wrestling related. He had a doppelganger that had like robbed some place of business, and they were looking for Ray Traylor.
Have you seen the Boss Man? You seen the Big Boss Man?
You guys ever heard the car door story?
Yes, I have.
Did you ever hear that, Mark?
Nope.
Cornette said they were getting swarmed or whatever. Him in the because like Big Bubba was the enforcer for Jim Cornette in the Midnight Express, So he had to like get the fans away because the fans were wanting to attack the Midnight Express in the parking lot. So he got him in the car, and Cornette slammed the door. And Nate, you can tell me if I'm saying it wrong or whatever, but as they were driving away, they like heard Boss Man as they got away. He was just like this hurts. Cornette slammed the door shut to get away from the fans, and they drove away, and fucking Ray Traylor's hand was in the door. So like he basically slammed his door and latched it on the fucking Boss Man's hand, and Boss Man didn't want to say anything as they were driving away from the fans because he didn't want to break kayfabe and be like, I'm a pussy. Open up the door.
But this really fucking hurts, but I'm not going to show it.
Right.
No, but like I thought that was funny because they were like, it was his doppelganger with the whole rivalry thing. And I was like, that's a man of the law. He would never do that.
Number 24 is Stan Hansen. Even after earning the AWA and U.S. titles, the Lariat is still best known for breaking Bruno Sammartino's neck in 1976, one of the wildest brawlers ever. I enjoy Stan Hansen.
One of the greatest characters ever.
Yes.
You know
one of my favorite lines he ever said was in WCW, and it probably was around this time, and they put out the top 10 listings. Okay? And he was listed number 6, and he was pissed. He was like, number 6. I ain't ever been number 6 in anything in my goddamn life.
He said, I got a fat wife and 3 fat kids at home to feed.
Yeah, he's like, and fucking, I don't know how do you guys feel about Tony Schiavone? Yay or nay?
Schiavone, as far as
just in general,
or as a
commentator, interviewer in general.
He's okay.
I like Tony.
Okay, watch Tony Schiavone in that weird time when Hansen was in WCW, when he was like feuding with Luger and shit, and he was doing the interviews. Tony Schiavone selling the disgust on his face, interviewing Stan Hansen with all the tobacco juice and everything is fucking great. Like he is literally like puts his hand out to try to get distance from him because he's like, this guy is fucking disgusting. It's good shit.
I feel like too, since we're talking about Stan Hansen, like he was the innovator of that lariat. Like that was his finish.
Yeah.
And legally blind.
Right, and nowadays that's a move that's used in every match, but it's no longer a finish. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that kind of died with the whole JBL.
Clothesline from hell.
Right, and for his day and age and what he was doing, I like Stan Hansen.
So for our listeners, you may have heard a change in my audio quality because for some reason, for the past couple of weeks, we've been cursed while we're doing this show. And I'm going to go, one day I'm going to go on a Spectrum rant like Jim Cornette. My internet went down, so I'm on my phone. And because I don't want my phone to die before we get through to get to number one here, I'm going to stop reading the descriptions for time's sake. As we go into the top 23, and fuck you, Spectrum Internet. But anyway,
since we don't have a PG rating, I'll say, God damn it, Bobby.
We'll go through, and like I said, if there's anything that's of significance in this year, I'll mention it. But I just want to get the list done because this has been a great series of the show. But to get through it before my phone might die on us, as I'm trying to get my internet back up. 23
and plug it up.
23 in the PWI 500 is Jake Roberts. Top 5 promo in wrestling history. Am I out on a limb there? Top 5 promo in wrestling history.
It's like you were talking about Morocco. You know, they had to come down to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I didn't really appreciate Jake the Snake when I was younger as much as I do nowadays. But like, Jake the Snake was an innovator as far as that goes, and he made the DDT lethal.
Mm-hmm. And in 1991, oh, go ahead.
Scared me as a kid, but I was intrigued. If that makes sense.
In 1991, he also had one of the to me, think of me as a kid, and it doesn't get talked about a lot nowadays. To me as a kid, one of the great rivalries was Jake and the Model with the whole blinding angle. Like, to me as a young kid, that shit was cool as fuck.
Thing that gets talked about most of him is that him and Savage angle with the Cobra.
I actually don't mind their blindfold match either. It's like the only blindfold match I've ever seen that I enjoyed.
Yeah, Jake does perfect. Again, he's perfect psychology. He gets the crowd involved.
They both do great.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying about him getting the crowd involved? You know, I need the crowd to help me. Hey, give me a cheer. Give me a cheer.
Yeah.
But Jake's one of the greats. As a person, kind of a piece of garbage. But as a performer, you can't deny him.
And as a person, the only thing I'll say is, did he really have a chance to be a good person?
Right. I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. He was born into shit, and that happens in life.
Yeah, you watch that dark side stuff, you kind of get an inside look at all that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That made a lot of things. That opened a lot of that opened my eyes to a lot of why Jake is the way he is.
Right.
Number 22. Oh, go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
And not to cast a shadow on Jake or anybody, but like Archie was saying, with his family, Sam Houston, like there was a lot of missed opportunities there.
Mm-hmm.
So like people from that family could have really excelled had they know what the hell to do with them creatively.
Yes. Number 22. I'm sure everybody on this panel is going to say this is one of their favorites of all time. Everybody knows this is one of my top 5 pro wrestlers of all time. Is the amazing Terry Funk.
Hells yeah.
I love him as Chainsaw Charlie. I don't know why that gimmick stuck out so much with me, but like legit, that was like I was really intrigued by that gimmick because it was kind of like a look at me, I'm Leatherface type thing, but he all he had was a pantyhose on top of his head.
That was his fucking idea. Like, there's people that shit on it and say, "Oh, they brought Terry Funk in as Chainsaw Charlie," and Foley said it. Foley said Funk didn't want to come in as Terry Funk. He was like, "I'm gonna be Chainsaw Charlie. I'm gonna put a panty on my head and have a chainsaw."
And him coming out in that, in that plywood box and stuff like that, and like it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole mystique of it, like what the fuck is in this box? and then he comes through that son bitch with the chainsaw. It's like that shit was gold to me.
Yeah, but every incarnation of Terry Funk is great.
Yeah, I agree.
But at this time, coming into we're in 1990, going into 91. He has just come off his run with Flair and WCW, which is one of the great rivalries of all time.
Yeah,
and
he's moving into commentary now. That Flair shit was great when he was like, asked Flair for a shot, and Flair was like, "Well, you haven't been working, and you're not in the top 10." And he's like, "You don't think I'm a contender?" And Flair's like, "No, that's not what I'm saying." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That was good shit. And
I was just joking about going on ahead and challenging you for the title.
I was just kidding, But yeah, everything Terry did was fucking gold.
Number 21. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Mark.
His finisher is like it's simplistic, the pile driver, but like if you look at it though, like he was ahead of his time almost.
He sticks it every fucking time.
Right, like he perfected that fucking pile driver. Like you didn't hear about like I know this is skipping ahead kind of, but like the Owen Austin situation. Like never heard that with Terry Funk.
Right. Number 21. I don't know. This might be one of the prime examples if we're talking about 1990 going into 91.
Maxon, this is his number one.
And this is my number. This is the top 3 of all time. But in 1990, this man is the epitome. And you guys can tell me if you think I'm right. This guy is the epitome of the expression on the cusp of greatness. Number 21 is Bret Hart.
Oh, yeah. It's like I was telling you, where it's like that you could see, looking back at it now, that Vince and Pat and Bruce, not Bruce at this time, Bruce was gone, but that office knew they had something, but they were not sure how to launch it.
Right.
And they weren't able to launch it because they were still, I think, in the Hogan aspect of it, like the Hogan mindset of it. You know what I mean? And honestly, the greatest thing to come out of the fucking steroid controversy was Bret Hart.
Yeah, because it wasn't no longer about the meeting man. It was the guys that actually could technically wrestle.
Yeah, right. Like Vince had to go, we got the steroid shit going on. We got to get away from that. Who can we go with? Oh, what about Davey? Oh, shit. Absolutely not. Oh, what about Warlord? Oh, shit. Absolutely not. What about Brett? Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like, was this prior to the deal with him and Stu? You know what I'm saying? Like with the whole Stampede thing. This is prior or post of his deal with Stu and bringing Brett in. This is post, right?
What was it? Sorry.
This is post the whole deal with him and Stu about bringing Brett and all the Stampede guys.
Oh yeah, this is way
that he right. So like
the Brett at this, like I said, at this point, I think Brett was the guy that they knew was the guy on the mid that was eventually gonna be main event style, and they just didn't know how to. They didn't know how to like pull it off, and it was a lot of, like I said, start and stop with Brett as a singles, and the shit that I've read with Brett, he also didn't want to. He was also somewhat concerned about what was going to happen with Jim because he was buddies with Jim and didn't want Jim to get.
What about Jim?
What about
that story last week?
Yeah. But yeah, this was finally guys like Ted DiBiase and Randy Savage and Roddy Piper and all these guys saying, fucking Brett's the man, go with him.
Right.
In another year, he's going to be the biggest fucking thing in the business.
They dubbed him right with the excellence of execution because everything he done was so crisp.
Yep.
Number 20 is the Great Muta.
Oh, we're supposed to say something now, right?
You don't have to.
What if people don't know, he was trained by Hiro Matsuda, Antonio Inoki, Kotishi Yamamoto, and Kingo Kimura. And he was also he's trained a few people that come up decently through the ranks of Japanese wrestling also.
At this time, he was Japan's biggest import to the United States, and he was lighting it up. And I mean, that's all you can say. I mean, the guy was he was something special in this country.
You want to talk about a wrestler that, if you want to use the word crisp, that motherfucker was crisp.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how you said you were on the fence about ordering the whole Ric Flair's last match, Nate, when you were talking with us and Arisi and all that you've only seen clips and you were on the fence about ordering it. If you do pay that money for it, it's also one of the things that they have on that StarCast weekend is Sonny Ono translating and Muda doing kind of like a shoot interview. So I mean, that was one of the little extras that kind of sold me on it.
Okay. Well, number 19, I think, is a little high on the list for this year of 1990-91. Nikita Koloff.
A guy that I have recently seen in person, and I will tell you this, that man has aged so well. He don't still look like, that embodiment of during this era, but for a man that is his age, he doesn't look that old, and he's kind of got that whole, to me, I get James Mitchell vibes off of it.
I'm not a big Koloff fan, to be honest.
See, and he's like you are with like Warlord.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't explain why I like the guy, and I know he's not the greatest worker in the world, but I fucking like him. That's how I am with him.
Yeah, I'm just not a big Koloff fan. All I ever think of when I think of Nikita Koloff is McIntyre.
He does a whole lot of ministry work now, though. Honestly, like as far as
I won't hold that against him.
From that walk of life, during them days, like you can't tell me Nikita didn't do no cocaine back in the day with it.
McIntyre.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can't say that he never done drugs, but like he turned his life around and as far as like a person and you know actually getting to see him and interact with him now, the
Yeah,
kid is
well, and
over with me.
I always say I'm not a religious person. I'm absolutely not a religious person. But if religion does something good for someone, that's cool, you know.
Right.
But number 18 is the Legion of Doom member Animal.
That's weird.
Man, you talk about how great, like you know how you were talking about Simmons being an impactful wrestler, Aaron.
Yeah.
That's what Animal is for me. Like that power slam that he would do. Oh my god! Like
Yeah.
it was like they hit the mat with such force and just the sound that it made and everything. It was like to me, Animal was like always my favorite out of the two. Like I enjoyed Hawk, but Animal was like really fucking over with me.
No, Animal was the worker for sure.
Yeah, I was
Right.
gonna say Hawk was the talker, and Animal was the worker, and he had a drop kick that was better than it deserved to be.
Yeah,
If
he
that,
was athletic as fuck for a guy his size.
yeah, like he's an underrated big man worker in my opinion.
I agree.
Number 17 on this list from 1990. One of the greatest bell-to-bell pro wrestlers of all time. If anybody disagrees with that, they're wrong. It's Ted DiBiase.
Hell yeah.
For sure. Sound, he got over as a heel like a motherfucker. And like the whole $1 Million Man gimmick, I don't think you could have put that on anybody else and made it work.
And at this time, he's, you know, about 2.5 to 3 years away from retiring. He's technically kind of winding it down. And you can watch it in his work, because at this time, what does Ted start doing? He starts putting over guys like Bret Hart. Maybe they have a one-on-one match and Bret doesn't win, but he lets Bret look really fucking good.
Oh god
Right.
damn, man, that Survivor Series.
Oh
ending-
yeah, the last 7 minutes of that Survivor Series match is one of my favorite matches ever.
Yeah.
It's like
fucking
what
great.
Brian Danielson said he wanted to do is start giving back to the business. Ted didn't have to say that; he just done it.
But yeah, like there ain't no hole in the game of Ted DiBiase.
No.
Whatsoever. And you never seen a sleeper hole look so good.
He also, what am I say? How good do you have to be when they're like, okay, so this is the gimmick that Vince McMahon covets as his favorite gimmick he's ever come up with. If he was going to be a gimmick wrestler, this is the gimmick he would have. So we think you are the person fitting to have that gimmick. That's a high compliment.
Yeah, and he talks about that. And we were talking about Terry Funk. Ted DiBiase has said that, like, you know, obviously his dad, his stepdad or whatever, unfortunately passed away. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But the guy that he looked at as like his father figure in wrestling was Terry Funk. And DiBiase talks about how Vince contacted him, asked him to come up, but basically told him, we're going to tell you this gimmick. And after we tell you, you have to, like, before we tell you what this gimmick is, you have to sign this, like, paper.
That was his first non-disclosure.
Like a non-disclosure gimmick is what they had him
Right.
sign. And DiBiase said he was on the fence and he was talking to Funk about it. And he's like, wait a minute. Vince McMahon has this gimmick in mind for you. He's told you what it is, and he tells you that you're going to fly around first class, and this is the gimmick that he would give himself if he was a wrestler, and you're debating on whether or not to sign the contract. Like, what are you thinking?
Right.
Yeah, you're not flying
Sign
coach
the
with the rest of us, motherfucker.
Like, sign it. And
Number-
it is hands down one of the top 3 gimmicks in the history of wrestling. Him buying the pool is my favorite one, by the way.
My favorite thing was him and cutting them promos out Razor Ramon. I don't know why, but that sticks out to me.
My favorite DiBiase shit is him buying the pool and kicking the basketball. Those are his best things.
His shit with Tito Santana was gold also. And that'll be the last thing I say because I know Nate's probably running out of battery over there.
Yeah, I was going to say the next 16 are going to be kind of speed round, and that's fine. Because, again, these are all people we talk about extensively on the other podcasts. We'll try to get through them quick, just so my phone doesn't die and Aaron and Mark are just hosting a show with no host. And fuck you, Spectrum, once again.
Make them up.
And I'm not saying we can't give a few thoughts, but a little less time on these guys. Number 16, 1990-91, Sid Justice. I think it's an accurate rating. He was a huge star at this time.
Yeah, but I think there was a few, like a lot of this list. I think there was a few that could have went before him.
Aaron?
As Sid was what he was at this point. I enjoyed him more than WCW, but go ahead.
I liked him in the WWF, but yeah, like you said, I think he was more. To me, he was always more a WCW guy. Number 15.
Later on, but at this point, like when they tried to bring him in as a face, I thought it was a miscast.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
And they figured that out quick.
Yeah.
Number 15, kind of a high rating, kind of weird. Hawk.
I mean, it's like Aaron said. You know, he was a mouthpiece. Like he had a way better promo than Animal. I mean, if we're just being honest, but like he wasn't that. He was another impactful wrestler who just, to me, Animal outshined him a little bit from the working aspect.
Hawk had the better look and the promo, but Animal was the worker.
Most definitely. Number 4. Oh, go ahead, Aaron. Sorry.
That's the only thing I'll say about Hawk. Like, one of my favorite things that he would do, and I know he loosened it a little bit to visually do it, but I liked when they would come out in the NWA and he'd flex his neck and bust the collar. That was always quite cool.
Very much so. And like I said, I mean, they were a great tag team, but I don't know. In this 500, I think they're ranked a little high, especially in the WWF, because their WWF run was very lackluster. Number 14, Barry Windham.
In the 90s, he was doing a lot of NWA stuff and with WCW. I will say this, he did fit in pretty well as far as being a horseman goes because he was a technically sound worker.
What was he really doing at this point, though?
But we're talking 90, 91. Not a lot. Not a lot at this point. Kind of living off past glory, I guess.
A lot of it was teaming with Arn Anderson.
He's feuding with Pillman, right?
Yeah, and Dustin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a and I'm not disparaging Barry Windham, but this is not a good rating for him. I think they overrated him here.
Number 13 is a guy that can never be overrated. Kurt Hennig. The single best bell-to-bell pro wrestler ever.
And like
I always say, not my favorite, one of my favorites, but not my personal favorite. But if I always say this, if I'm talking bell to bell, he's the greatest natural pro wrestler of all time.
like if it's a top 10 thing, I would definitely put Henning there. Like we were talking about Sellers, he's definitely in the top 3 for me. I really enjoyed his stuff whenever he was managed by the coach.
Mm-hmm. At this time, he's killing it.
Yeah,
he's absolutely killing it.
Yeah, I can't say anything that I haven't already said about Kurt Hennig. So,
number 12, another one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Jerry Lawler.
he was USWA a lot during the 1991 era.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He was in the USWA a lot for any era.
I mean, for what he was, I mean, if he was in Memphis, he was going to be beloved. If he was anywhere else, he knew how to drew heat, and I mean, just that arrogant. He had the personality for it. Even though, in retrospect, in reality, he's a really good person. He did his job and he did it well.
Well, a lot of times people, when they talk about the history of wrestling, they talk about, well, you're talking about the greatest stars of all time, so you have to cover, all the way back to George Hackenschmidt and blah, 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 blah. Well, then I will say to you that even going back to George Hackenschmidt, blah, 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 Jerry Lawler is one of the greatest pro wrestlers of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And the shit he did.
Look at the body of his, the career. It's you can't find shame in the game on it, and it's like, I don't want to talk about the guy himself, but his career, it's fucking great.
And the
like,
shit
what hasn't that guy done?
Right.
Like, what hasn't he done? You know what I mean?
Number 11 for this time, I'll respect the rating. I'm not a huge fan, but I'll respect the rating for 1990, 1991 is The Ultimate Warrior.
Fuck him.
For the time, yes, indeed. I respect the rating. And had the extracurricular stuff and all that not been so controversial, I would say, maybe that's a little high, but I mean, to me, that's a fair rating for this era.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm not a fan, never was. Even as a kid, I'll admit, as a kid, I was a Hulkamaniac. I loved the Macho Man, et cetera, et cetera. But even as a kid, I was never really a big Warrior guy. But you can't argue with the merchandise sales. You can't argue with the ticket sales. He was a big fucking star, and actually, and I know it's going to get some hate just because he is a much better wrestler. But I wouldn't understand why Warrior was 11, but the next guy was 10.
Right.
And the next guy is Rick Steiner.
Fucking hell yeah.
I don't know how in 1990 and 1991 Rick Steiner ranks higher than the Ultimate Warrior.
Because he doesn't suck.
No, though, with the Warrior, though, when he come out and shoot them ropes, you were for some reason, whenever I was younger, that really got me fucking hyped, and it was a simplistic thing, and it went over with me. Steiner, Rick, he was technically sound, and I think sometimes he's underrated. he doesn't get talked about a lot in the right circles as far as ring work.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic.
To me, he's my favorite of the two Steiner brothers.
Aaron?
I've talked about Rick Steiner plenty of times that like Nate, you and I talked about it, that I think it's crazy that he never was like, he was never, I don't think he would have ever been like a long-term NWA champion, but I think there was a point in his career where he should have been NWA champion for like 6 months.
Right. Yeah.
Like I would have rather seen him go, and I like Ronnie Garvin, but it's like it would have been better for Steiner to go over fucking Flair than Ronnie Garvin. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yes. Well, number 9, I think, is a guy we can all get behind here. Arn Anderson.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. The enforcer. Like I said, during the 90s, he was doing a lot of tagging with Barry Windham and stuff like that. And in the early 90s, he was doing a lot of stuff with Ole. But in the late 90s, he was doing stuff with Barry and stuff like that. But technically sound, my favorite spine buster of all time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you talk about talking people into the building.
Yeah.
Arn's promo skills. There are times, and Aaron, you can tell me if I'm blaspheming or not, but there are times when they're together that Arn is a better promo than Ric Flair.
Oh, hell yeah.
You're not blaspheming. You're not blaspheming at all.
Arn, he was, how do I say it? Like, he was a wrestler that, like, he was a guy that looked like a guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is the guy at the end of the bar is going to drink some beers and
the everyman. Yeah,
the everyman. And he cut great promos, and he would holler at times or whatever, but didn't go over the top with it. And when he has, I shouldn't say it's a catchphrase, but he's like, one of my favorite things a wrestler ever said is, I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot toot. It's fucking good shit. And if you can wear glasses and a fedora and cut a promo and still seem intimidating.
You know what's funny? I was about to say, like, just as kind of jokingly, but man, I wish Arn would have kept the fedora through his whole career. Could have been a thing.
Yeah.
It's what inspired Brodus Clay.
Number 8, and I won't disagree with him being top 10 at this time, because he was one of the top 10 workers in the world. Honestly, is Steve Williams.
Dr. Death.
He was, but it's kind of a.
He worked the Dr. Death.
It's kind of a high rating.
Yeah, way high for this era, from my opinion.
I don't know, man. If we're talking worldwide, him and Terry Gordy as a tag team at this time.
Yeah, it's probably based
a lot of Japan stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Williams is a guy that doesn't get, in hindsight, we're talking 2022. He doesn't get talked about enough in the discussions of just amazing fucking workers. Amazing fucking workers.
It might be the fact that the whole WWF run for him was kind of like,
yeah, and they write history now. They write history now.
To me, that's kind of like a joke because you don't really get to see how fucking really good of a worker Steve Williams was
And based off
in
look,
the WWF.
and based off looks, just an intimidating looking human being.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he definitely looked like the guy you didn't want to fuck with.
Yeah.
Number 7, Rick Steamboat.
That's an overrating for you, correct, Nate?
What's that?
That's an overrating.
No.
At
Maybe
career,
maybe at this time, because at this time
he's the
he's
dragon.
in the WWF as the Dragon, and they're not really featuring him. But if you're coming out of 89 into 90, he just had one of the greatest series of matches to ever happen with Flair. And he is one of the great workers of all time. You know, I mean,
yeah,
he is. And I know younger fans are gonna be like, but I've seen a lot of Ricky Steamboat. But I'll just say this: Ricky Steamboat, if we're talking about modern days, back in the day, Ricky Steamboat was Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, like the arm drags and all that. He definitely, those were crisp as far as Steamboat goes for me. Like if you're breaking down, okay, I'm looking at the wrestling business, and these are the moves that are associated with it. If you look at an arm drag, you want to look at Ricky Steamboat to get, the whole precipice of how it's supposed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
To me, this is a how do I want to say it? A namesake rating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is probably, and I know you said you talked to him on John Arezzi's show or whatever. To me, this is probably like a Bob Smith as a Ricky Steamboat fan, and probably didn't agree with what they were doing with him, but was still like, it's fucking Ricky Steamboat. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
He based this one off of work rate, in my opinion. Not what he was doing, but his work rate and being a fan of him.
Number 6 is Scott Steiner.
That's an overrate to me.
I think that number 6, yes. I think that at this time you probably could have ranked him in the top 20,
but not
because he was
really good.
Oh yeah, so good. Like Scott Steiner is one of those guys that has 2 careers. You know,
right.
He has the career at this time where he was, I mean, so he could go toe to toe with Flair. And then later on, of course, he becomes the muscle-bound Big Papa Pump. But at this time, I don't know. Like I said, 6 is a little high, but I think, top 20, I could see that.
You're being generous because I would say 25, but something that I recently learned is that when he was all muscle-bound and stuff like that, he was actually lighter than he was whenever he was doing the tag team with Rick and all that in this day and age.
That's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, like he looked ripped as hell with the whole Big Papa Pump gimmick, but like back in that day, he was, I guess, because they say muscle weighs more than fat,
Mm-hmm.
so I guess he had a little more padding on it, and everybody talks about steroids and stuff, and they think Big Papa Pump, but to be honest with you, I think it was just that he dehydrated his muscles that much. Just my opinion. I'm not saying that he didn't ever use steroids, but I'm just saying, like, Big Papa Pump character, it might have been the whole fact of your muscles was dehydrated to where you know all that showing.
Aaron?
Scott Steiner. I think Scott got rated this way because WCW was doing the singles kind of push with him and having him work with Flair, and that's why he got rated where he was at. And he was doing crazy shit like that Frankensteiner and the Steiner screwdriver, and Scott was just kind of a freak at this point, and I think that's why he got rated where he got rated.
All right, we finally reached the top 5 of the inaugural PWI 500. And I think that as I'm looking at it, there is one spot I would change. But other than that, talking about this time period, this year, I would say this is fairly accurate as far as the top 5 wrestlers in the world. But again, I would switch one and we'll get to that. But number 5 is Sting. Woo!
Sting,
You're talking 90-91, and I'm not. Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
I was just gonna say he's having his best in ring work at this time.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to discredit Flair at all, but at this time, Sting is WCW's greatest hope, and he's their biggest star.
Yeah, this is like American flag thing and the whole green and black and stuff like that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, like for this time, I believe that's the accurate rating, like you said. And this is after the whole Black Scorpion gimmick, right?
Oh yeah, this is wait. No, this is before that.
Well, no, Starcade 90, December 16th.
The rating system they're going off of, he was going through that at that point.
Yeah, like Starcade 90 was Sting defeated the Black Scorpion. And then WCW Live in December 28th of 90 was where he defeated Ric Flair. So I'm assuming that was after the fact that they revealed that the Black Scorpion was quote unquote Ric Flair, even though there was multiple men behind that gimmick.
Okay, all right. Well, then I've been proven wrong, so I'll say this. Mark Brew. If you remember episode 172. Anyway. But yeah, Sting was great at this time. And he was, again, like I said, he was WCW's greatest hope at this point. And to their credit, for a while, they did a good job with him.
He took something so simplistic as a flash in the corner and made that as his signature move before the Scorpion Death lock, if I'm not mistaken, or the Scorpion Death lock and the Scorpion Death drop. He did all that, but like something as simplistic as a splash in the corner was so impactful, and that was what he used to set up for his finisher. And to me, that was like he could really get the crowd involved just by something simple.
Mm-hmm.
And that says leaps and bounds about his training.
Number 4, and this is the one I'm going to say I would transverse with somebody else coming up, but number 4 is Randy Savage, my favorite pro wrestler of all time. And at this time, he's come off the retirement match with Warrior, but you're talking about the year prior, and he's doing great stuff, and he is I mean, he's fantastic. Randy is fantastic no matter what. No matter what's going on, Randy Savage is the fucking man. You guys?
Was where he did all that stuff with Dusty and Sapphire, correct?
Dusty and Sapphire, the shit with the Warrior, all of it. Like he made, obviously he made Warrior look amazing.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, greatest promo damn near ever.
Randy Savage.
Not discounting his in-ring work, but his promo skills were way beyond his time.
Savage is a guy that you can, when you say hit on every level, was a guy that hit on every level. And he worked face, he worked as a heel. There's no holes in the game of Randy Savage. And there's just nothing bad you can say about the guy at all.
And all I have to say in response to that is, ooh, yeah.
Well, number 3 for the first PWI 500 is Ric Flair.
Again, I have to woo.
I'd switch him and Flair. I'd switch him and Savage.
I would leave Flair where he is. My difference comes in a minute, but
this was going into and the only reason I put that was this was Flair going into his and you wouldn't know it at the time looking at it, but looking at it, reading his life story and everything like that, the 90 Ric Flair until he got to working for Vince, this is when he struggled the most and was, I don't think this word has ever been used for Ric Flair, but this is when he was in his most sluggish and out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Have you not seen his last match?
Well, I'm not talking now. I'm talking
his last match was at WrestleMania 24 against Shawn Michaels, Mark.
And that's what we will remember because that's where we want to see Ric Flair.
And that's where the shit was actually good.
And I know you guys are joking or whatever, but Nate, do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, for this time period, he had lost all confidence.
This was the Jim Herd shit, and I
wasn't firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him over Savage in this. He was fat, I'm sorry, and he's like in my top 3 favorite wrestlers of all time. But at this time, he was fat and just was not the Ric Flair that I think about.
Well, we don't have Archie Mitchell here to argue a point, so Aaron, I will definitely die on this hill with you.
All right,
number 2. And this is the guy that I would actually transverse with Savage. And I know at this time he's the WCW champion.
He should have been.
But number 2 is Lex Luger. And I'm not discrediting Lex. And at this time he was good for what he was. But I would put Randy at 2 for me personally, and Lex at 4. He was at his best at this time in WCW. He had his fucking entrance music is fucking cool as shit.
Yeah.
But he just, I don't know that I'd rank him 2. I would probably rank him 4 and Randy 2. But Lex Luger is number 2 in the PWI 500, the first one.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him over Flair either. Like that, like you said, you put him at 4. That would have been a fair ranking for me. And this is pre-WWF, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is NWA Lex Luger.
Yeah.
So, but like as far as physique goes, great look. I think they could have did a little more with him in WWF if they had known how to properly push him. Because to me, that whole Lex Express thing and all that was bullcrap. But I mean, that's a whole nother hill that we'll climb up some other time. I'm in agreement with you on that one.
WCW at this time absolutely positively knew how to book Lex Luger. I'm not denying that at all. I just say, to me, he's for Randy's too. But he was fantastic at this time. This is actually from 1990 until he leaves WCW in 92 is my favorite Lex Luger.
Right.
But like I said, I would just flip him and Randy. That's the only complaint I have.
We're in agreement on that because I don't think you put him over Flair, and I don't think you put him over Savage. Just my opinion.
Aaron?
This is the best run Lex had. That 89 to right before it was a 92 when he went to Vince. Yeah. That's Luger's best run. And
for sure.
And I I wholeheartedly believe that when he wound up with Harley, that was supposed to be Flair being managed by Harley, and Flair left, so they just transplanted Luger into there. But how do I want to say it? Like, I think Luger gets a lot of shame on his game, and the narcissist gimmick. I liked that, and it's like Mark said with the Made in the USA thing. He was just the wrong guy for it, and I don't think he should be number 2 in this list, but he should have been in it. I don't think he should be number 2, but he does deserve to be in the top 10. That makes sense.
I think from a kayfabe magazine standpoint, he's ranked 2 because he's a champion of the number 2 promotion, And
I will say this: a shoot fucking torture rack hurts like a bitch. Just saying, that's not a lovely predicament to be.
All right, so number 1, we finally reached the position of number 1
it's not
in the inaugural PWI 500, and for this year, for the year that it took place, for the year that it happened, it's appropriate.
Tell me you really just said fucking date.
Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead. Guess.
I'm thinking it's one of 3 people. It's either Dink, George the Animal Steel, or Sal Balomo.
Aaron, this is why we are free.
Hit me with it.
If that wasn't comedy, I don't know what the fuck is.
Well,
good shit, pal.
0 out of 3 ain't bad, Aaron. Number 1, and like I said, for the year that we're talking about, it is wholly appropriate. It's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. This is his apex. It's the swan song of Hulk Hogan.
Until the heel turn.
Yeah, until the heel turn. Okay, that's what I said. Hulk Hogan.
This is when he was doing shit like Hogan and Tugboat versus Bravo and Earthquake and all that, and then like Hogan and Tugboat versus Valentine and Honky Tonk and all that in the '90s is when this was happening. So like, I agree with it. That was his swan song. That was like his apex. I don't know. Like to me, like okay, I get why he's number one during this era. But to me, when we go back to that question about the overrated, underrated, and all that, I think Hulk Hogan is sometimes overrated.
I think he's work-wise. I think he's underrated. Because that motherfucker is the greatest salesman. Is one of the greatest salesmen in the history of professional wrestling, and could fucking rap like nobody's business and knew exactly what his fucking character was, and no shame in the game on Hulk Hogan. And Nate,
I'll break kayfabe on this one. Like, cause you're talking about like he was the greatest salesman and all. And yeah, and when you're trying to put that heel over the shine and all that, you're supposed to shine him up and make him look real nice before he comes back. But that whole no sell with the Hulk up shit, to me, like that's just not over with me.
So, and we got into the weeds about it last week with dying on a hill. And I might literally die on a hill because my phone's about to die. I'm going to die on a hill with Hulk Hogan here at number one in the inaugural PWI 500, because that's a big thing. We've been doing this show for like 2 months now, going through this. He deserves to be number one. And I'm going to die on a hill. People that hate on Hogan are full to the if they have green eyes, their eyes are brown. People that shit on Hogan, especially during the 90s and 80s, are absolutely full of shit.
and that's
They're full of shit. Him and Austin are the two biggest box office draws in the history of pro wrestling.
And
So to shit on that is because you're pretentious. And you want to sound superior to everybody.
And that's what I was going to ask you, Nate, or not tell you, or whatever. I'll tell you. I'm 39 years old. Nate, what are you, like 47?
I'm 43. God damn it!
I know. I'm fucking with you.
Damn, you don't even know how old your brother is?
I know how old my brother is. Nate's 43. Mark, how old are you?
I'm 32.
32?
Yep.
Jesus. Well, I'll say between me and Nate's age. Nate, anybody that tells you that they were not a fucking Hulkamaniac.
Oh, they're full of shit.
They're full of fucking shit.
I know one fucking person that can't tell you that.
If you're between me and Nate's age, you were a motherfucking Hulkamaniac.
That's like my son who is 20 saying he isn't a John Cena fan.
Yeah. or taking it out of wrestling, okay? It would be like your daughter, like a girl her age, telling you that she wasn't a believer or a believer. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like this was a cultural icon that if you were into that, genre of entertainment, you were a fucking fan of him.
Right.
And anybody that says I didn't like him back in the like, I'm a guy that can tell you I love Ric Flair. You know what I mean? Like, I love WCW and everything WCW and the NWA did, and I was a Ric Flair fan. But I'm not the guy that's gonna be there sitting there and be like, I only like Ric Flair and fucking Dusty Rhodes. Fuck Hulk Hogan. It's like, no. If you were in our age group, you were a fucking Hulkamaniac.
And if you say you weren't, you're up to your eyeballs. Yeah, you are up to your eyeballs in bullshit.
I'm not gonna say that I didn't have a Hulk Hogan poster.
Well, and actually, with your age group though, Mark, you can say that. You know, I mean, retrospectively, you can say that. Maybe Hulk Hogan, blah blah blah. But for me and Aaron, nah. Anybody in our age group that says they weren't a Hulkamaniac is trying to. They're trying to sound smarter than they were.
Oh no, like legit growing up in my childhood, I had the whole Hulk Hogan poster with him ripping the shirt and all that on the back of my door. But like looking at it from a nowadays aspect, like you know how they talk about the 5 moves of doom?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's Hogan.
But those 5 fucking moves were fucking great.
Well, I mean, it's like we were talking about Sting earlier, and I said, you know, he took something as simplistic as the splash in the corner and you know, got it over. But like, just like analyzing it from nowadays, what my views on wrestling and stuff. Sometimes I just feel like he's overrated. I don't think I'm not going to neglect that he was a cultural icon during that time or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, as far as a wrestling standpoint, technically it wasn't, you know, all that great.
To me,
and
wrestling is fucking Hulk Hogan, like hulking up and doing his shit. You know what I mean? Like,
and I went back and researched it and seen the whole Sterling Golden and all that before he was Hulk Hogan. Like I'm not saying this from an uneducated standpoint. It's just sometimes to me it just feels like I'm not gonna say he didn't have a great physique and he did not look like what the fuck a wrestler should look like. I'm just saying, like, as a technical wrestler, like, Hulk Hogan is not a technical wrestler for me.
Well, I understand that.
As an 80s and 90s, the 80s and 90s were my formidable years as a wrestling fan. Okay. So it's kind of like when you hear people in their mid-30s back to their 20s, it's like I would say about Dory Funk.
Right.
I'd be like, I don't see it. Or Bruno, I don't see it. But in that time, that was what those people wanted to see, and they loved them. They fucking loved them. And you cannot argue with that, you know?
Well, right. I'm not discounting that whatsoever.
Let me ask this, okay? I don't want to say it. We all know wrestling's fake. Shouldn't say fake.
Wrestling's real. People are fake.
You guys get what I'm saying? Like it's a show.
It's still real, damn it.
Would you guys rather watch? And I'm not shitting on the modern product because there is modern product stuff that I like. So, what would you rather watch somebody kick out of? And I'll use this guy as an example because he's my favorite current performer. On all these shows, you see Brock Lesnar hit like 5 F5s on Roman Reigns, and he kicks out of each one of them, right?
It's a lost art because finishers aren't what they used to be.
that's happening, and then Roman Reigns hits like 4 Superman punches, and Brock just keeps kicking out of each one of them. Now, is that believable to you guys?
No, because
Now, Hulk Hogan,
a finisher is supposed to be a
Hogan in his match with, say, Andre the Giant or Big John Studd or Don Morocco is being clubbed in the back of his head repeatedly, and he's selling and he's holding the ropes and he's shaking around, and eventually gets the upper hand and can block a punch. He doesn't block 7 of them. He only blocks 2. He looks at the guy and goes, that ain't going to happen again. And then he eventually builds back up. Nate,
right. I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, as far as the art of the shine, Hogan had it.
Hogan fucking had it.
Yeah,
he was.
But as far as like a technical wrestler, he wasn't a chain wrestling guy or anything like that.
No, yeah, and you don't have to be a fucking chain wrestling god, okay, or what a chain wrestling guy. Like, that's not what it's about. It would be like trying to compare like Dean Malenko to Hulk Hogan. I'm not gonna do that. You know what I mean? It's a totally different fucking thing. It's the showmanship of it, and it's the big sell. And nobody sold bigger or better than fucking Hulk Hogan, and nobody could get the sympathy. The only person that could get bigger sympathy for himself than Hulk Hogan was fucking Ricky Morton. And it was totally different, but it was the same goddamn thing. It was the big sell and just captivating a fucking crowd. And nobody in the history of wrestling did it better than Hulk Hogan. Nobody. And he's not even my favorite wrestler. But nobody captivated a crowd of people for sympathy better than Hulk Hogan. Nobody.
Right. I mean, he did, like, all right, so you do the whole shine your heel up or whatever, make him look good, and then, but my biggest problem with that is, like, okay, this whole time you've been selling them clubs to the back of the head and all that, and then all of a sudden, now this shit doesn't affect me yet, but I've got hit with it 30 times, and I sold it every time, but now it doesn't affect me. I've done got used to it.
It's storytelling, man. It's a fucking movie.
We make movies.
Well, we make movies, pal. we have finally reached the apex of the PWI 500.
I didn't mean to go on a big tirade about Hulk Hogan, and I hope it didn't.
I kind of did.
My phone has reached the apex of its battery life.
You don't have plugs?
What?
You don't have plugs? Don't what me? You don't have plugs?
What? That being said, we're going to sign off here. And Aaron, any parting words for our listeners as we have completed this journey through the PWI inaugural 500?
Just thanks for listening, and I'm sorry I went on like a Hulk Hogan tirade that probably didn't make any sense or have any validation to it, but I think he's deserving to be there.
I mean, I get why he's there, and I'm not going to go on a tangent and all that, but this week on March Cindy Spotlight, I have a female guest that's gonna join me, and then I also have a male guest that you will be getting an episode of afterwards, and got some interesting stuff coming up. So tune in, listen. We Can't Wrestle. Definitely because you're listening to it now, but like continue to listen to it because I love having these conversations with these guys. The year that was ... from Aaron Maxon.
It's a good show.
I don't know why we have to do the ... but
It's because
but
no, I tried to Google. I tried to Spotify my own show, and I typed in the year that was, and there's already one called it. And then I typed in the year that was ... and then my show popped up. I'm like, okay,
all right,
that
so
was the year that
the
was ...
year that was ... Also tune into that if you smell what the Archie's cooking, reliving the extreme. That's always golden. Golden Voices with David Gold and Cheyenne Ortiz, if I'm not mistaken. And just anything that the WrestleNet Radio Podcast Network has, tune in, and we have something for everybody. And if you don't like us, well, then be like WWE and get the F out.
and try to say something try to say something and put ... at the end of it and not kind of giggle a little bit. It's fun.
Well, I mean, it just gets me because, like, every time you say the year that was ... I don't know why, but I giggle.
That's what
I'm sorry. That's just me and my personality.
Like go into a conversation, okay, and be like, "Oh man, I was driving this golf cart. And I accidentally ran somebody over and ... It's kind of like the yada 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 from Seinfeld, you know.
Yeah, I dig it. I dig it.
Check out all the shows on the WrestleNet Radio Podcast Network. And thank you for joining us on this journey through the PWI 500. And next time,
Good shit, pal.
Depending on how the recording schedule works out, our next show will either be the Hall of Shame or trivia. So it could be vice versa. It could be Luger Savage. You can vice versa that. I will decide as we go on. But we're either going to have trivia. We're gonna have trivia or Hall of Shame. But either way, those are your next two shows as we have finally concluded our journey through the inaugural 500. And everybody, thank you for joining us this week on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Aaron, Mark, thank you for joining the We Can't Wrestle ... podcast. And we'll see you next time around. Have a great week, everybody.
The perfect way to end it.